Hey everyone, it's Fire Knight 3 again with another top 10 for your NFL fantasy leagues. Today we're going to be looking at the one I'm pretty sure a bunch of you have been waiting for, the very essential quarterbacks. So this would be your top 10 of the best quarterbacks who I would consider are your best at being consistently providing points every single game out. Now of course, with quarterbacks that's never a guarantee, simply because of the type of defenses and the type of scheming that you would need that would very affect how the quarterbacks can be used each game. But these 10 I believe are the ones that are consistently going to be providing the most points for you because A, they use their arms a lot, B, they have dependable receivers, which is essential for a quarterback to be good and to provide you points. And of course, C, they will scramble when need to and can sometimes be considered a dual threat. So, an example of a quarterback that I would suggest you to not go after immediately, my suggestion would be Cam Newton of the Carolina Panthers. He has the arm strength and he is a great dual threat QB, but the recent shoulder injury and the receiving core that he currently has, I don't consider them dependable, and I don't consider his shoulder something that can be dependent on yet. Yes, Andrew Luck was out all of last year, and then, or the year before I should say, then 2018 was basically almost MVP caliber. But it's not the same with every single quarterback. So that's why in my honest opinion, in that case, if you want someone that's going to be truly dependable, you're going to want someone who has the reliable receiving core, can be a good dual threat, but most importantly is called upon to use their arm on a consistent basis. So with that being the case, here are my top 10, and I'm pretty sure everybody already knows who's going to be number 1, and that's going to be Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, there's no argument. We all saw what happened last year. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards, first year as a starter, league MVP, on the face of the Madden NFL cover, which we all hope will not affect him. I mean, what else can you say? This kid is just magic. And that was just his first year starting. Heck, even if he doesn't have Tyreek Hill, he's still going to be able to make that ball be a threat for any team that he's going up against because he has Sammy Watkins, Damian Williams, Demarcus Robinson, and honestly, Mecole Hardman, I think, is actually going to be a very good addition for this team. So, all in all, and of course, Travis Kelce, we can't forget about him. The receiving core is there to provide him the help, but this is a great scrambler, a great dual threat QB, and someone who will have his arm relied on a bunch of in games. So, as far as I'm considered, if you want someone that's going to be dependable, this is someone that's actually first round worthy, and you cannot say that about almost any QB in the league, period, in fantasy leagues. The specific reason why, and of course I've been experiencing this, people tend to go for the great dual threat running backs and the great wide receivers and tight ends first. That's why I made the videos on them before the fantasy leagues opened. When it comes to quarterbacks, it's good to have an idea of which ones you want, but not a good idea to go after them first, because even though they can provide you the points, it's the running back and wide receiver sets that are going to give you more because you have to utilize more of them every single week. But nonetheless, Patrick Mahomes, he is a first round worthy quarterback just because of what he is able to do. And then from here are my next 9. First up is going to be Baker Mayfield of the Cleveland Browns. Yes, I am following on to the bandwagon, but I think anyone in their right mind would. I mean, we all saw what happened last year, how he lit up the entire league, and that receiving core was so great with Jarvis Landry, Brashad Perriman, with Ricardo Lewis and Rashard Higgins. He was making plays with these guys and David Njoku and Nick Chubb, but regardless, he was making plays with mostly a core that had a solid 1 and 2, but behind that, you can't really say was well. Now, by adding OBJ on the team, forget about it, man. The Browns' offense is going to be seriously difficult to stop, and Baker has the arm strength, the consistency of arm strength, and the ability to scramble with his legs that he needs to. And plus, we all saw the way that he debuted a Philly style special to get a 2-point conversion. Yeah, I think Baker Mayfield is definitely somebody that you're going to want on your team. Next up is going to be Jared Goff of the Los Angeles Rams. This is a quarterback that he will scramble when he needs to, but he's not someone that you'll see that with that often. However, from the way that he can move the ball down the field in the air, and on top of the fact that he has one of the best receiving cores in the entire league between Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Josh Reynolds, along with 2 actually really good tight ends in Gerald Everett and Taylor Higbee, and then Todd Gurley's actually good out of the backfield. This is a core that will provide you points on the regular. This is a quarterback you're going to want. Next up is going to be Andrew Luck of the Indianapolis Colts. You saw what he did last year, and that was with mostly a receiving core that lacked that many superstar names. The ones that you can call exceptions would be T.Y. Hilton, and surprisingly enough, Eric Ebron. He made Eric Ebron a greater receiver at tight end. Now they got Paris Campbell. Now they actually have Devin Funchess, who can be a good veteran presence. In my prediction, I believe Paris Campbell's going to eventually become the number 2 in Indy. But on top of that, they also have a good, I would say like 3rd or 4th string wide receiver in Ryan Grant and Chester Rogers. And then on top of that, Mo Alley-Cox, if he can develop more, can actually be a good tight end. But the most important thing is that Andrew Luck is one of the smartest football IQ quarterbacks in the league, who can throw the ball when he needs to, can scramble it when he needs to, and has the arm strength in order to send it downfield at the most important times of the game, or whenever they just feel like doing it. Either way, this is someone who's dependable week in, week out. You're going to want Andrew Luck. Next up, Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints. Even though I'm going to admit this, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara are the ones that are receiving the ball way more than anyone else on that team. It's still a good core when you consider that they got Traquan Smith, Tommy Lee Lewis. Actually, no, they sent Tommy Lee Lewis out now that I think about it, actually. But regardless, the receiving core is actually very good. And Drew Brees, he just knows what to do with the ball. He just knows where to throw it. He knows when to scramble with it, and he knows how to protect the ball very, very well. You want a reliable QB. Drew Brees, if you have him on your team, the only time you're not going to see points come out of him on your fantasy team is if he's going up against a very stingy defense, and the only time I ever saw that last year was up against the Dallas Cowboys. Besides that, Drew Brees is 100% dependable all the time. Next up, out of the Seattle Seahawks, quarterback Russell Wilson. This is someone who is one of those QBs that makes more with their legs than they do with their arm, despite the fact that they have an exceptional arm. Russell Wilson doesn't have necessarily the receiving core that would be attractive, because his number 1 right now is Tyler Lockett, and right behind that is DK Metcalf. Doug Baldwin is gone, and the rest of the receiving core, I can't really say there's much there. We can't even say that there's really a reliable running back. And as far as tight ends go, Ed Dixon, okay, but the thing with Russell Wilson is the fact that he makes so many plays with his legs. He is one of the best scramblers in the league, period. And he's a really good dual threat quarterback. He makes up for the fact that if he cannot rely on his receiving core, he can rely on his legs. He's someone that would be highly recommended for you to have on your team. If you already have one of the other ones that I mentioned, especially Patrick Mahomes on your team, at least have him as a backup if you can grab him. Next, Deshaun Watson of the Houston Texans. This is a QB that can definitely provide you with plenty of points because he loves to use his arms and he loves to use his legs. So either they're using a rushing attack, he's still going to be slinging that ball downfield if he needs to. And if it's an air game, well, forget about it. You're going to be getting points out of him. He has two reliable receivers in DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller the fifth. As far as the rest of the receiving core, honestly, you can't say that there's really much there. Just a tiny bit with Kiki Cudi and with Vincent Smith. Tight end, can't really say at all. Running back, Lamar Miller, But when it comes to Fuller and especially Hopkins, he throws it to them so often. And when they just happen to be covered where he knows they can't get it, his legs will definitely get you that first down. Deshaun Watson will give you points. Trust me. Next up, and this one may be a tad bit of a surprise, Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Carson Wentz. Definitely a QB with a whole slew of reliable receivers. Zach Ertz, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, Nelson Aguilar, provided he stays on the team. And then in the running back core, we actually got quite a bit of good hands there. Miles Sanders, who they picked up in the draft, on top of the fact that they already have Corey Clement. I mean, you got a receiving core like that. You got an O-line like the one that Philly has, and Wentz is still willing to use his legs when need be. As long as he stays healthy, Carson Wentz will be a very reliable points maker for you. That goes without question. Next up, of the Los Angeles Chargers, Philip Rivers. Now, he's one of those quarterbacks that he's not going to rely on his legs almost at all, but if he has to scramble, he can. But he has that reliable receiving core that makes him a threat on the field every single game. Between Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Hunter Henry, along with a good receiving duo in the backfield, and Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler, you got someone that has plenty of people to pass to, who, despite not having one of the best O-lines in the league, more like on the middle range of that, he still makes so many plays. He still gives you so many points. That is why he was always almost perennially considered a dark horse for the MVP candidate, just because it's like there's nothing that can stop him from creating so many points with everything that he has around him. And finally on my list is going to be Aaron Rodgers of the Green Bay Packers. Yes, their receiving core actually downgraded this year, which is kind of a shame considering. And the receiving core is not 100% what you would like to see. Besides Davante Adams, who does he really have that can be considered reliable at the moment? We can't say that about Equanimeous St. Brown. We can't say that about Marquez Valdes-Scantling. We can't say that about Jake Kumerow. We can't say that about Jimmy Graham. And we can't say that about Tonyan. I forgot his first name. But either way, the fact is that Rodgers can make any receiver do so much because his IQ is just wow. He is someone who knows when to scramble, who knows how to throw, and who knows how to throw it deep when need to be, and how to just pinpoint where that ball has to be for his receivers to get it. Rodgers is an amazing quarterback who will receive so much in regards to points, because if it's not his receiving core that's giving him any advantages, he'll do it with his legs, and he can make it happen without question. So, those are my top 10, and here are a few quarterbacks that I would consider good backups, but not top 10 material, and I'll give a little reason as to why for each of them. First one, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you already noticed right out the gate that I didn't mention him, was Tom Brady of the New England Patriots. Like I've mentioned a couple times before, you can never predict what's the scheme that the Patriots are going to be using, And based on what I noticed how they drafted and what they did with free agency, this is going to be a run-heavy, defense-heavy kind of team. Brady is going to be relied on for throwing the ball to his receivers when need be, but it's so not consistent that, yes, the Patriots will win consistently, but not in the same manner. So Tom Brady is not reliable in that kind of a sense, that he can get you points every single week. If you have him and you know he's going up against a team with a weak secondary, maybe. Another person that I would definitely consider not going after is Nick Foles of the Jaguars. Nick Foles is a great QB. He has a great O-line in front of him. He does not have a great receiving core. You can't trust a Marquise Lee to always be healthy. And between Dede Westbrook, DJ Chark, and everyone else that they have on the team, apart from maybe Chris Conley, who can you really trust? That's not a really reliable set of hands that Nick Foles is going to have. Maybe he can elevate them to become better, but I can't trust it. So until I see otherwise, I would stay away from him for the time being. Another one that I'm pretty sure you noticed I didn't put on the list was Ben Roethlisberger of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And no, this is not because he lost Antonio Brown. The problem with Ben is that when he gets on a losing streak, that lasts a while. And he is a quarterback that will either get you a bunch of points or lose you a bunch of points because he's throwing multiple interceptions. And the fact that now he has Juju Smith-Schuster, and then between tight end Vance McDonald, James Conner possibly, Dante Moncrief, and maybe a little bit of James Washington, that's not really what I call a 100% dependable receiving core. I would give that like maybe a 60, mostly from Juju, and from there it's just hard to really say. And like I said, when he gets into a losing stride, it lasts too long. So he's someone who will get you points for a good while, but once he starts losing, he's going to cost you, and you don't want that. So get Ben as a great backup QB, but he's not someone who makes it to my top 10, and it's for that reason specifically. And lastly, quarterback that I'll put on my, in a sense, honorable mentions list here is going to be Matt Ryan of the Atlanta Falcons. He has one of the best receiving cores you can ask for in the league in Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu Sr., and Calvin Ridley. You can definitely say that receiving core is great, along with Austin Hooper and Devontae Freeman. However, the fact that they had to make up for their defense last year, and yeah, he was getting points, but sometimes it got to the point where he was forcing people to lose points on our fantasy league because they were doing so much to overcompensate for the defense that he started making mistakes. That sometimes Matt Ryan is not reliable to give you the points. He can get points for the team, but not you points if he's making mistakes. And then there are times where they rely too heavily on the run, and then there's a whole different story. They beefed up their O-line through the draft and through free agency, so I'll give them that. And I would actually like to be proven wrong about Matt Ryan. If you happen to have Matt Ryan on your fantasy team, let me know, and when the season actually starts and gets through, tell me in the comments if he actually is providing a lot of good points for you, and then I'll reconsider. But in the meantime, those are my top 10 quarterbacks for your NFL fantasy leagues, and we only got 2 more categories after this one, so I'll probably either can join that one or maybe not, considering it. But either way, in the meantime, this is Fire93 signing out.